copy toàn bộ các set vào, nhưng mình làm cái là được. Tiếp theo thì chúng ta sẽ kéo cái file âm thanh, cái file spaceshipfly.wave này ở đây chúng ta đặt x là 50, y là 300, width là 300 và hay là 200. Ok, thì ở đây chúng ta đơn giản chỉ là thay đổi cái kích thước của cái ship của chúng ta thôi, của cái UA May ship của chúng ta sang một cái kích thước khác, và cái việc thay đổi đó nó sẽ tuân theo một cái hiệu ứng của một hiệu ứng mà animation này nó cung cấp thông qua cái animate method ở đây ha. Ok, bây giờ chúng ta sẽ tiến hành run cái ứng dụng lên, và trước khi run thì mình cần lưu ý các bạn là để ý cái cửa sổ của main ở đây ha. Thì khi mà chúng ta khi chúng ta sử dụng cái giao diện này, ở đây nó là thiết bị nào, ví dụ ở đây là iPhone 11 thì khi chúng ta run chúng ta cũng sẽ chọn cái thiết bị đó. Ví dụ ở đây mình sẽ chọn là iPhone 11 như thế này ha. Rồi sau đó chúng ta sẽ run. Thì cái việc chọn như vậy là để cố định cái kích thước giữa cái phần thiết kế trên main storyboard, và khi chúng ta chạy thì nó sẽ không có bị vỡ layout hoặc là một cái lỗi không có đáng có này. Còn cái phần đó, cái phần mà response layout thì sau này chúng ta học auto layout thì nó sẽ khác hơn xíu ha. Ok, bây giờ chúng ta sẽ nhấn start ha. Rồi, vậy là cái chuyển động chúng ta đã ok rồi. Bây giờ tiếp theo chúng ta sẽ add thêm cái phần âm thanh cho nó sinh động ha. Ok, chúng ta sẽ thêm một cái biến ở đây và player, kiểu dữ liệu là AV audio player. Ok, chúng ta cần phải import cái thư viện đó ha. AV audio foundation. Ok, sorry, cái này là AV foundation mới đúng. Rồi, ok. Tiếp theo trong cái method view bitload chúng ta sẽ tiến hành khởi tạo cái audio của chúng ta. Đầu tiên cần phải lấy cái path của file âm thanh, main path, lấy từ resource. String sẽ là cái tên file. Tên file của chúng ta là spaceshipfly. Kiểu file là wave. Tiếp theo chúng ta sẽ lấy cái URL. Sẽ là cái path mà chúng ta vừa mới lấy ha. Rồi, tiếp theo gọi do player bằng try AV audio player với cái contains là cái URL của chúng ta. Sau đó sẽ gọi player prepare to play. Bởi vì chúng ta sử dụng try cho nên cũng sẽ cần phải check nó lại ha. Phần này chúng ta đang handle cái exception. Trong phần handle exception chúng ta chỉ in ra cái error thôi. Exception. Ok. Cái path này rồi, tiếp theo khi chúng ta nhấn on press chỉ việc gọi player play. Ok, vậy là chúng ta có thể run được rồi. Perfect. Ok. Vậy là cái video đến đây là hết rồi. Cảm ơn các bạn đã... Hello, chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại với...
You want to make a Mac app, but you don't know how to start? I really like macOS app you're going to build. Let's start coding. So I have 3 cases, our app. So these are static, easier. I'm naming this here task manager. Now, if you want to run this on the Mac, you need to have actually a developer account connected. So going to the app, target task manager, under sign in and capabilities here, you need to have a team account connected. So going to the app, target task manager, under sign in and capabilities here, you need to have a team used. Otherwise, you won't be able to build on macOS. But this can be a free developer account.
Hello, so this in the to install Xcode. The other thing is size requirements. So downloading this requires 3.4 gigs, but in my experience, it's going to take up a lot more hard drive space once you've got it installed. So I would even budget for double this because there are additional components you need to download depending on which platforms you want to build for. As you can see, you can use Xcode to build for iOS, iPad, tvOS, watch, visionOS, even Mac computers. So this is official Apple software, and this is the only tool recommended by Apple for us to build. This is Xcode 15 UI. Getting through to what these files are in a second, but I just want to, that's all you need to configure for your new project. Let's click next, and we're going to choose a place. We are not going to navigating through your app and starting to work your files. We're going to do certain things in the
Apple and PM at the top of the window at the back, and window group navigating through and work with windows in SwiftUI. Now, I will use new SwiftUI APIs to further tune the windows for my app's content. I will in video here. It is still associated with the window. I've decided
All right, welcome everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into Swift, specifically the swift.org documentation page.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's kind of like the ultimate guide to everything about this programming language.
It's a great resource.
It's making waves these days.
Yeah.
So I was looking through it earlier, and it's really interesting how Swift has kind of evolved. You know,
Yeah.
I remember when it first came out, everybody thought it was just for building like iPhone apps.
Oh, absolutely. I remember that. It was like, oh, Apple's new language for apps.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, looking at this documentation now, it's way more than that.
Yeah.
Even says like right here that Swift is a quote general purpose programming language,
Right.
which sounds super broad. So I guess my question is, what exactly does that mean
And
in practice?
it basically means that Swift isn't limited to just one specific type of software. Like you were saying, it started with iOS apps, but now you can use it for all sorts of things.
Okay.
From mobile apps still, obviously, to server-side development, even embedded systems.
Wow.
It's really like the difference between having a very specific tool for one job
Right.
versus having like a whole toolkit
Okay.
that you can use for all kinds of things.
They're like, could I theoretically program my smart refrigerator with Swift?
Well, theoretically, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, for something like a refrigerator, you might want to dive into the embedded development section of the documentation. But the point is, Swift's it's flexible.
Okay.
It can adapt to a lot of different
Yeah,
scenarios.
I see.
Yeah.
So what's driving this growth then? Beyond just those, those mobile apps, what is it about Swift that's making it so popular now?
I think part of it is that it was designed with speed and safety in mind from the get-go.
Okay.
And that makes it really appealing for applications where performance and reliability are super important, like server-side development, for example. There's even a whole section in here called Swift on Server.
Oh, wow.
Which kind of shows you how important that aspect is becoming.
That's really interesting. I'm starting to see why it's gained so much traction.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, learning any new programming language can be a little intimidating.
Oh, for sure.
It can be very daunting, especially if you're, just starting out. So how does Swift.org, how do they make this whole process more approachable for beginners?
Well, the documentation section is really a goldmine for beginners.
Okay.
They have a ton of stuff, everything from a comprehensive book called The Swift Programming Language, which is kind of like the Bible,
Right.
to a whole bunch of resources curated specifically for people who are just getting started.
So just create.
So for this deep dive, we're all about cheat codes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what are some quick wins? What's something somebody could look at and kind of get up to speed with Swift pretty fast?
Well, one thing that stands out to me is the API design guidelines.
Which are basically like a style guide
Right.
for writing really clean and elegant Swift code.
Okay, I sense a comparison coming here.
It's kind of like, think of it like grammar rules for writing, right?
Yeah.
Good grammar doesn't stifle creativity. It actually makes your writing more clear and impactful. And the API design guidelines are kind of like that for Swift code.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
They help developers write code that's not just functional, but also readable and maintainable.
I never thought of grammar rules as like a pathway to creativity, but I see your point.
Yeah.
So speaking of making things easier,
Sure.
the documentation also mentions the standard library and the core libraries. How did those fit into this whole picture?
Those libraries are essentially like collections of pre-built functions and tools that streamline the coding process. So instead of having to like reinvent the wheel every time, developers can tap into these resources to perform common tasks.
Yeah. Which saves them a ton of time and also ensures consistency.
So it's kind of like having a toolbox full of like ready-made parts.
Yeah.
Instead of having to, craft every single component yourself.
Exactly.
I like that. But then how do you take all these pieces and really assemble them into a working program?
Right. Well, that's where the Swift Package Manager comes in.
Yeah.
It's a system for managing dependencies,
Okay.
which are basically external code libraries that your project relies on.
Right.
And it helps you
now we'll start
seamlessly
to create some data to show. In the first step, then we create the views, and then I will connect it in the app. So we see more Mac specific a little bit later. If you don't want to go through the setup phase of the models, you can just go in the link in the description showing what we have to do. This is a string task. So this is a struct identifiable, which means I need to have an ID. Let's create a new group for model. And the two model files that I need to handle my data is one